Hey, good morning, Joe.
Good morning, Joe. Oh,
Yeah,
that's gonna be great.
we're gonna have to watch the chat too. We're gonna have to have nicknames perhaps for this one. But welcome everybody to Vizlib Appy Hour. I think we're on 19 episodes. Again, started as a little bit of a side project, and somehow we ended up doing this every single week for the last 19 weeks. So we're having fun with it. Really happy to have you on board. Joe, I'll have you introduce yourself, but we've been working together bits and bits over the years with Qlik. I have my green screened out Qlik shirt on as a Qlik Luminary, and I remember those. Yeah, nice. The Luminary calls where you were not shy at bringing up really good enhancements to Qlik. So
well,
that's how I was like, I gotta get in touch with this guy. He's got some great ideas.
I am not known for holding back.
Yeah.
So
you want to introduce yourself? What do you do? Where you live, all that good stuff.
So my name's Joe Easley. I work at Odyssey Logistics. We're a 4PL that are based. We're actually global, so we're all over. I'm out of our Charlotte service center in Charlotte, North Carolina. I live just a little bit south of that in Rock Hill, South Carolina, the greatest state in the nation. So sorry for everyone who's not in South Carolina. And so I've worked at Odyssey Logistics for 12 years now. So I currently sit in the role of Qlik administrator. So I'm the principal designer for all of our business intelligence content. I'm part of our analytics team. We have a couple of other folks that do design, that do specifications, do some other stuff for our overall analytics offering. That's both an internal and external function. So we have internal clients that we build apps for, certain use cases, and then we have our actual Odyssey customers. And we build stuff for them. Sometimes it's a mirror of what we do internally. Sometimes it's, very specific client tools that they need for their transportation network. So anyway, so that's what I do. But yeah, I've been in kind of the data and analytics space for about 5 years, and then doing Qlik stuff for 4 of those 5. Have been really heavily involved since the beginning of our Qlik journey at Odyssey.
Perfect. Lindsay says, hi, Joe and Joe. We'll have some people pop in from time to time, so you'll see that on the bottom there. But hey, Lindsay, Lindsay's in South Africa, so we do have truly global audience today.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So I feel like we are, brothers from a different mother type of thing, just so we have the same name, but we have data in all elements of our life. And we were just chatting right before this, how sometimes our family's like, hey, can you not do that stuff? Can you not think analytically about something? You're like, you can. It's just the way we think.
Absolutely.
When we see a list of things or numbers, we're ordering them, we're sorting them in our mind and trying to figure out a better way to maybe display that information. And it doesn't have to be business stuff. So I know we have a fun one today, but you were talking about how, you have a couple kids.
I do.
You're introducing, your work to them through different ways. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So my daughter, who is 10 now, actually, gosh, she's almost 11. Oh my goodness. So when she was in the 2nd grade, her class was doing surveys and graphs and data as a unit in math. And so I worked with her teacher and the other teachers on their hall and built a survey for the kids to take. And then we compiled that data and actually had the opportunity to go into the school and show them using Qlik. Here are a lot of different charts, and here's how data works and how it's related to each other. This is how different charts and graphs work, all that kind of thing, which was really neat. And I'm hopefully going to be able to do the same thing with my son and his class this year. So he is in the 2nd grade this year, and they have that same unit coming up. So I spoke to his teacher at the beginning of the school year about it, and so when they get there, I'm hopefully going to get to do the same thing. And then actually one of the most fun ones for me was during the pandemic. We didn't do this for a long time, but both of my kids needed to work on their typing speed. And so we timed their typing every day. So they came in and they typed, I forgot what we had them type. I think we just had them type the alphabet 10 times and we timed it. And we tracked it every day for a couple of weeks. And I showed them a graph of how, every day that they did it, they got a little bit faster.
Right.
Compared them to each other. So that was cool. And then
did you show them the graph like before they started the next test the next day, or did you wait until the very end and show them overall?
I showed them after the third day was the first time I showed them anything.
Okay.
And then we looked at it. Then they wanted to see it every time. So what they'd want to do is they'd want me to put in their time and then reload it so they could see, well, did I do better or not? So it was like a surprise. Like it was like a, like a.
Were they like, Dad, throw that one out. I need to do that one again. I need that dot to be a little bit further.
So that did happen once. So that happened with my son once. He got distracted while he was doing it and didn't like that his time was a lot higher. So he did do it. He did do a repeat.
Got to repeat. That's great.
So, and then and then my son. So last year, again, all during the pandemic. So my son's birthday last year, he got. He had shown interest in Pokemon, just the TV show and all that. So he really likes games. And so I was aware, I knew that Pokemon was a card game. I didn't really know a lot about it, but I knew that it was, more complicated than Chutes and Ladders or whatever. So I told a couple of our family members, I said, this is what he wants. So my parents bought him this starter set. And so on his birthday last year, we learned how to play. We spent a long time. We spent a couple of hours the first night that he had it, just sitting around learning how to play. And really, he really enjoyed it. And then, through some friends, we got a coworker of mine actually, gave us a whole big stack of cards that she was, that she had used in the past and didn't need anymore. And so he built his collection up really quick and got to where he wanted to build decks, and we didn't have everything we needed necessarily for what he was trying to do. And there's so much information out there, right? There's so much, like there's a Pokemon wiki and there's all this other stuff. And I'm like, this is not organized. There is not a good way to figure out what we need. And of course, because, of how I am, I'm like, well, I wonder if there's an API somewhere that just has this information. Surely there's a database, right? And there is. So I don't think it's like the official Pokemon company's API, but this guy, somebody's put together a database of card information. So found it, tapped into it, and there we go.
Yep.
Right. So now we can start looking for, what do we really need, to build these decks. So that's kind of where our conversation about this one came from.
Right.
But like you said, like we've talked before about the Star Wars API. There's one more that we've talked about before as well. Like this kind of stuff, like it seems pointless, but it's fun. Like the data is out there. It's a thing. So like, may as well look at it.
Yeah, I can say when you sent this over, my mind just started racing like, okay, cool. One is maybe we'll get the chance to like win over a young mind with how cool data and analytics is, which seemingly is a very boring topic to lots of people. I absolutely love it. I know you love it too. So right. Like, oh, okay, what can we do? And you had showed me that you found a way to get the images for the cards in there too.
Yep.
And then make it as like a scrollable interface. And I'm like, okay, now you just open up my mind to this whole other thing we could potentially do in here. You can click on the card and narrow down into it and see the information about Pikachu's hit points and his max attack and these things and how it compares to the other ones and just find those cards. So we tossed this app, I think, back and forth just a few times.
Yeah.
And I went to town on it. I'll go over some of the sheets that I think came with it so people get an idea. There's the types of the Pokemon, of course, what their damage points are. I wasn't sure. I guess there's like different versions of each one, and that's what the stacked bar is showing us. Is that right?
I think so.
So if it's a particular Charizard.
So I think that one's showing like, I think that's the two different attacks.
Ah, okay.
So I think that's like that particular one has.
If he uses flamethrower versus if he uses this thing.
Yeah.
I didn't even get into this page. It's the attack.
Yeah,
review.
so that's the attacks they can do. Yeah.
Okay. And then we had just the data. I imagine this is, a little bit of what was just coming out of that API.
Yeah, this was really this was in there just for me to kind of figure out like what are we looking at here. So that was a big one. So that column that you're over right now, that set, that was a big deal when we were first looking at it, because when he started to learn more about all the cards, he would specifically want to talk about, like, I want to look at Sword and Shield cards. And so we can look at, from that series, here are the sword and shield, cards.
And then you were like, okay, cool. Check this out. These are all the ones that maybe you haven't even seen yet. Scrolling through the images.
And so that helped us. So we're very fortunate. There's a shop in our town it started off as a baseball card shop, but they have an entire side of the house now that's Pokemon and Magic the Gathering and something else. It's mostly Pokemon though. And so like it helped us because we could go in there now and look for cards and we would know what we were looking for because we would have seen them before. Right. So we could go in and say, all right, we want, a score bunny and a this, and we want the ones with these attacks. So we know what the art looks like. It made it easier for us to find stuff.
Just pick it out and you knew.
Yeah. Cause those shops, there's not a lot of organization in the shop, right? Like they have these big long boxes that are just stacks and stacks and stacks of cards. So you just take, you take out 200 cards. And
you just thumbing through them, trying to find them. Now I imagine this is when you sent this over, I talked to my brother, and we used to play the Pokemon game on like Nintendo Game Boy Color, which I can't even find. I wish we would have kept it. Would have been cool. But we maxed out batteries. That was when my parents were like, there has to be rechargeable batteries that we can buy in a little system because we went through so many batteries with the Game Boy. And then the cards came out. I don't even know when, but back then, I think
1998.
I missed it. Like I missed that boat. He might have got it. And then I heard just recently in the last like 2 years, this stuff has taken off. Mm-hmm. And the value of these cards as a collector did that drive your son at all? Like, oh, I need to get this one because it's $17 or something like that.
So what's interesting is he is very interested in the cards that have higher value, but it's because they get talked about on like YouTube shows. So he'll watch, because he's 7 and he's a child of this age, he can just watch YouTube videos of people opening stuff. So he'll watch. So I'll go in a room and Judah will be sitting there and I'm like, what are you watching? He's like, Pokemon openings. I'm like, oh, okay. So he'll just watch somebody open packs for an hour. So he'll be more interested in cards that are of higher value, but we'll go into the store and look at them, and they're like under glass, and they're $30 a piece. So
they're covered in huge chunks of plastic and things.
Yes, yeah. But then you can go pull out the big long boxes, and they're 10 cents a piece. And so it's like, well, if you have $10, we can go buy a zillion cards, for $10. So why don't we do that? And so usually it's a balance. Usually he'll buy like a $1 or $2 card or a couple of those from under the glass, and then we'll buy like 50 regular cards or something.
Yeah, that is the way to do it. I don't. Back when I was in Madison, we just moved to the Tampa area in the last year, but we had one comic book store that kind of had this stuff, and then it went under. And like, you're pretty lucky to be able to have that. Hopefully, it's still kicking.
Yeah, they're doing great. It's crazy. They have tournaments every Friday night. So naturally, like, because he's 7, and we really try to be careful with with his internet safety and all that stuff. Like, so I am because of him, I'm a member of like a Facebook group for that store, and then also that store's Pokemon League. So like, I know when they have stuff going on.
Yeah.
So like, they have these tournaments almost every Friday. They have something on. The store does really well, and I think it's because there's not one. Surprisingly, I don't think there is one in Charlotte. So I think that like all of the business in our area and from the Charlotte metro area, I think all kind of comes there. It's great though. Like, it's a great little store. The people that run it are really friendly. Like, it's not the typical like comic book cave like that you would expect. Like that. It's not that crowd. Like it's everyone's very friendly. It's a very kid friendly store. Like it's been a really good experience for both of us.
That's really cool. So how would your son use something like this? Other than, we find a set, we maybe look through some of the cards. Were there other things that you were hoping it could do that you just didn't have the time to play with?
Yeah. So some of the things one is we would try to figure out, I have this card and I don't have either who it evolves from or who it evolves into. And so what I never got around to doing is figuring out a visual that would do that, right? That would show, if I have this card, show me who it evolves from and into, like show me that whole chain. And I don't know that the data is modeled properly for that right now anyway.
We could take a peek at it. I mean, find the right. I'm going to duplicate this sheet to just keep the original one. Which one are we on? find the right card, duplicate it. Then we'll look at that because I have an idea, and you're right. I haven't really looked at the data too much, but the one that I would go for that, as you said, that from this to that, immediately I'm thinking that's a sand key. It's a flow related thing.
Yep.
I'm curious, like in your work life, when we think logistics, we think sand keys a lot too. I'm trying to get this thing to this thing. There's these checkpoints, this stuff. If you end up using this type of visualization a lot.
I do.
In your day to day, yeah.
Yeah, so it's funny. I actually had a conversation with somebody about sand keys 2 days ago. They're very popular, but it's very hard to make one that is consumable because it's very easy to make them confusing.
Yes.
They can get out of control very quickly. So the one that we use, we have one right now that's kind of, it's on an app that is going to be done soon, or hopefully soon. We have one that kind of follows the path of a on-time pickup and delivery. So it starts with, did the truck pick up on time, yes or no? It then flows into events, like message events that we would get from the carrier about a pickup. So like we had to make an appointment, or there was a weather delay, or there was damage, or whatever. So messaging related to the pickup, then after that, messaging related to transit, and then messaging related to the delivery, and then was the delivery on time, yes or no? So it lets us really see, what is influencing ultimately on-time delivery, because that's what everyone really focuses on the most.
Sure.
So it really lets you track it back and say, all right, well, let's just take everything that didn't deliver on time. So on-time delivery, no. What paths are we following here?
Boom, yeah.
Yeah, that we can go back and work with the carriers on. And so that's a big one. We also do a lot of like ship from this location. So we'll have like a location, and then we'll have, mode and specific equipment types, and then 2 locations to see kind of where the composition of our shipments is falling. So are we shipping full trucks? Are we shipping a lot of are we shipping full trucks? Are we shipping partial trucks? That kind of stuff. And what locations are doing that? So we do a lot of that with sand keys as well.
There's tons of dimensional data then.
Yeah.
And then
what's funny about a sand key is that like it's very polarizing. Like people either like them or they hate them.
I absolutely love them.
And I've never been able to convert somebody. So like I know my audience that likes them. And so I try and so I'll try to make one for them when I'm doing development for them. But I also know my audience that does not like them. And I don't even try anymore because, I don't want to spend time making one that works well, show it to, an internal person, an internal customer, basically, for me, and say, well, here, I made this for you. And they're like, yeah, I don't like that. I don't want that. It's not useful to me.
Let's see if we got this right. I selected the name Charizard evolves from Charmeleon. Did I get that right?
That sounds right.
That's a smaller one of it, I think. And then it goes into the bigger one. I'm looking for other people. And there's a bunch that don't evolve from something.
Yeah, I think those are like special cards.
They're just what they are.
And so now we're going to time travel in the future. So this afternoon, my son Judah right now is explaining over top of us why some don't evolve from something else. He's explaining that right now. So good job, son.
So I actually had it right there, I guess, the first time. We're looking at cards that you might have over here and to know who it evolves from. Mm-hmm. But you might also say, I have this guy here, and it evolves into Fracture. But Charizard. I don't know if I spelled it wrong. If that's, there we go. Somebody Charmander to Charmeleon to Charizard. Can I do that?
Thank you, Yogi.
Yeah, let's try that again. So if I'm looking at the card Charmander into evolves from, Charmander is the first one, so that doesn't make sense. Charmeleon. There's one.
Yeah, so this is a modeling thing, right? So I feel this we probably would need a table that's set up more like a graph. That's set like a graph.
Because I need the next evolution type of thing.
Yeah. And we probably would need like a,
I need to like connect these, yeah. That'd be interesting. I'm sure there's other ways to model it just so that's appropriate for this visualization too.
Well, you could also do like an
table.
island, right? So you could make a table that's a data island of just the evolution chains, and then you could use set analysis to, like, as you make selections in one field, to narrow down that data island. So you could do like get field selections or whatever.
Evolves from, I was told to look up this one, EV? EE. I'm so bad at this.
Yeah, Eevee has a lot of evolves too. I think that one has.
That's the one where you want the set of all of them type.
Yeah, because Eevee can turn into any type, I think, or almost all of the types.
And then what I put as the measure, so the Sankey is from this to this, and the size of it is how many cards are out there or how many IDs. So with this one, we could click on Flareon, and I think if we go back to your first one, we'd see all kinds of
so that's all the different versions of that. And so then, like, this is actually like a perfect use case, right? So we would identify, Jude and I would say, all right, well, here's a card that we want. We want a Flareon. Well, which Flareon is best? So now we can either look at the cards or look at the data to say, well, how much energy is needed and how much are the attacks worth and what are the hit points? It's funny, like my son and I play very differently because he's 7 and I'm 38. And so the way he plays, he typically needs more hit points, he needs more health generally. Because he's going to take a lot more whacks from me. And I play a lot more strategically, and I usually will have a deeper bench, and so I can typically afford to lose some cards if I need to. But it's interesting because if we're both trying to figure out cards that would be good for a deck, like this kind of stuff helps you figure that trade-off really easily.
Interesting. Yeah, that whole other element of here's finding the right card, kind of like you had noted the name of it. We want to review their attacks or card data. This could get pretty extensive where it's you have this card and it's kind of the match statistics type of thing. That was where I'm totally over my head. I don't know the rules of the game. I played on the Nintendo, as I said, and I don't think it was nearly as complicated as the card game itself.
Yeah, the card game has a shocking number of rules.
Yeah.
So I'd say the other interesting thing too that makes this model. And again, I think if I spent more time on it, I could crack it. But one of the interesting things is that the damage on the cards can be a little bit misleading because there's instructions as well. And so, like, you might have one where the damage says 20x. Well, 20 times what? And so it could be 20 times the number of damage counters that your opponent's card has, or it could be flip a coin 4 times, and so it's 20x the number of heads. Or whatever. Like there's a lot of interpretation that goes into it as well, which can be challenging. So so that also helped us again being able to. So the big thing here is like if you can like being able to identify just in general, like here are cards that have good damage statistics, good whatever, and then being able to look at the image and say, okay, well this is what it looks like. Here I can now read the instructions of what it says to do. That's good. And on the flip side of that, there are these cards that go in your deck that are called trainers, which you can play them on your turn to give yourself an ability or take some kind of extra action or something. Well, to be able to search the text of a trainer card to know what trainers to look for. So like if I want cards that allow me to draw more cards, I can just search the text on here for the trainer and say draw. And it'll show me, well, here's all the trainer cards that contain the word
here's
draw.
The cards that have it.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
And that's helpful because, and yes, Yogi, that's true. So
the TCG, I ran across.
He plays it on his iPad a ton because I can't always sit down and play with him. So he's got it on his iPad, and that helps him adhere to the rules. But yeah, so I mean, just the ability to search the text of the cards as like a library, basically. is hugely powerful here. Because if you say, well, I want,
Wow.
you know, show me all trainer cards that have the word discard. Okay, well, we can do that, and then find out.
Is that stuff's not in here though? I don't think I saw
It's in there. It's not in that filter, but if you go to the selections menu, I'm pretty sure there's a text. There is a field that's got the full text of the card.
I didn't. I mean, oh, you're right. So, like you said, I search for draw.
Yeah.
And I'm going to see, these are two probably really good ones to have. Oh, related to Eevee even, because I'm.
Yeah, so that's going to be an Eevee that has the ability to draw cards. So that's always interesting, right?
I was joking earlier that I spent a lot of time yesterday playing with this, and I didn't even know it had this text in it.
Okay, so now I have to look because I'm really liking that second card. So draw cards until you have. Does that say 6 or 5?
6 cards in your hand.
So you do 20 damage and get to draw until you have 6 cards. That's not a bad play right there.
So here's where I took it, because let's say you hit this inspiration and you're like, I need to remember. What do? You probably, screenshot it, take a picture of it, whatever. Here's what I added for you. So we're going to pick this Espeon Draw 6 card, if I said that right. And I put a write back table in here. So I say, okay, how many do we own? 0 right now. But you know what? I'm going to add this to my wish list, and I'm going to rate it a 5. Somebody could probably look this up too, what the cost of the card is, because there's a bunch of websites I saw that do that. Let's just say it's worth, I don't know, $25. It might be a really good one, right? That's not out of the realm of possibility, I think.
No, there's cards. So so shameless plug, and they'll never see this, but Grand Slam cards in Rock Hill, South Carolina, where we go to shop for Pokemon, they have cards under the glass there that are 30, 50. They had one that was like $300 last time we were there. So it was also locked in a box inside of the locked case. So
let's say, okay, now we don't have anything on our wish list, at least for this one. We'll add it. Now it says it's on our wish list, and I put this little bullseye target.
Nice. That's very cool.
So we'll go back. I think it was these 2 cards. So out of the 2 that we had originally searched for, now we know it's on our wish list. We could put a little filter and find all our wish list ones as well.
Very cool.
And I think I might have added a few others. So I took what was I think the types is really interesting. They also have really nice icons. So I built a little, what we call it tiles, kind of selection thing. So I could find all the lightning Pokemon really quickly, for instance, and get down to it. If I had quantity zoned, I can go fill this out, rate, wish list. I didn't have any there actually, but let's just see.
Cool.
I had 4 on my wish list. So who are those? We can just search for it, and it should throw it in the top here.
Oh, very nice.
So then you can start kind of tracking maybe your cataloging. I know there's lots of other catalog apps, and maybe the TCG one is one of them, but
well, the TCG one is interesting because it's really like a digital collection. So you don't necessarily have the same cards in TCG Online that you have like in your actual deck. But there are a couple of apps where you can scan the card and it does some kind of lookup and it will do it will manage your collection for you. That is really cool. I never considered using Write Back. That's cool.
If I actually, let's say I own one of them right now, I was thinking, why is my total collection value 0? It's because I don't own any of it.
Oh, okay.
So I actually did the math right when I was playing with it. I should now have, okay, we own it. We have 25 valued in our collection overall.
That's really cool.
And it's simple. All I did was attach to the ID and then kind of display some of the other things that I think are interesting. The name, of course, of the type, so you can kind of look it up, the card number, and then added in 4 new columns. And it's just saving it to QVDs right alongside the app. Mm-hmm. If the API is there, and I don't know how often you were running it before, but if it's, say, pulling down new cards or you had estimated value coming off of the API, which there were some sites that had it could be dynamic in that way. So I'm like, okay, let's build a collection type of app for you guys. And I think I got this working yesterday. but I only have images for certain Pokemon. I was
very
able to
cool.
scatter and put the actual images on there. I know if I pick like the base set, it looks a bit better because it's all the old pixelated ones. And it's trying to load every image it could possibly find.
So many of them look like a hillside.
Yeah, right.
That's really cool. That's very cool.
And I'm like, okay, how do you make scatter plots fun? You put images in them.
Absolutely, 100%.
It was trying to find this a reliable site that had them available. So it's one of those, like Wikipedia pages dedicated to Pokemon that's out there.
There's a really
nice
good
people that put these images out there.
There's a really good scatter plot of superheroes and supervillains that has their innate goodness and their power level like on an XY, and so you kind of can see like it. It's not in a Qlik app. It's just a static scatter plot that I saw once, but it has their faces on it. It's pretty good though because you can see like who would be a good matchup in a hypothetical fight.
I love that. That gives me something. That's the type of stuff I'm like, how fast can I try to rebuild that?
Yeah.
And I just have fun with it because there's a technique.
I do that all the time. I'll see something and be like, oh, where's that data? Let me do that and see if I can do it better.
Would there be anything, so as you guys are building out your collection, that you would want to also keep track of?
So
getting prices coming in.
Thanks, Josh, for telling
I was way off, but
so I think one that I think that would be helpful. So one thing that my son likes to do is he likes to build a deck, but then he'll need cards from that deck to build another deck. So a deck list manager would also be cool, which I mean with Right Back you could do that, right? So
yeah.
And you could also use that. So you could also enforce rules on a deck with that as well. So one thing that is interesting is that, like a regulation deck can only have 60 cards in it. So you could have a rule that's like, in order for this deck to be valid, the count of cards is 60. And so then you could say, well, this is the cards that I want to put in it. This is the number of energy cards that I want to put in. These are my trainers, blah, blah, blah. And then that would tell you if your deck has the right number in it. And then this part I'm not as clear on. I'm going to have to learn, though, because I think that my son wants to do some tournaments. There are certain cards that are like valid for tournament play and certain ones that aren't. And so I'm sure that's knowable because it has to do with what sets they come from. So like you could also do that. Like you could do a check for validity on like, yes, this deck is valid for tournament play or something like that.
The set code something? So it should add it in, I think. Let's see what it looks like. Yes, that's fine. BW9 base 1. That base 1 looks familiar. Like it is the...
You could probably map it from that. Like you could probably figure out which sets are valid and then do it from there.
Okay. Do we want to export it? I mean, yeah, it's already in the data, so we wouldn't have to store this, but it would be... I don't know. It's a fun one to kind of wrap your mind around. I'll show you what, I mean, you should be familiar with. The original data model came from your API one, and we'll take a peek at that because it could help us determine where we might build something else. So you got, I think the cards is this middle one here. I'm going to get to the, why is it scrolled over? That's what the API grabbed.
Yeah.
All that stuff. We got Pokemon types. I added this because I wanted to put the images for each type in those little bubbles.
Yeah.
I kind of went out quick and grabbed the locations of those URLs for the images, and then also the color just to match something.
I like it.
Which is nice. And I started doing this a lot more recently in my Qlik apps because there's certain color codes that you want for certain dimensions and things like that. You can use it on a few charts, but the easiest way is put it right in the data. Like I know that this thing is always going to be this shade of green.
Yep.
And then I just have to put in type color or color of item.
Yeah, I do that.
And look it up.
I do that so in my recent Qlik apps, so I'll have my requesters, like let's say, so I'm building one right now for our trucking procurement team. And they have this app that has a really robust set of KPIs and metrics that they want to look at simultaneously. like overall, like the routed carrier acceptance. So, carriers that we actually procured for a lane that accepted versus guys we had to just go get on the day. So what's the percentage of routed acceptance? What's the percentage of like the best carrier accepting? So the number one guy on the route taking it.
Yeah.
But they have targets for each of those that they want to set. And they also have those that exist at the top level, but also at the like different targets for the customer level. So I'll have them populate a file and be like, all right, you manage your targets and I will load them from this file that lives in this place. You change them to whatever you want and I'll just bring them in. And then I just refer to the targets, in all of my visuals on the, on all of the color segments. I'll just do set analysis to go get the right target for the right customer.
Okay.
And then for actual colors, I end up coding that in. I don't load it as data. I code it in as a variable. So I'll set a bunch of variables in the load script and say, this is, stoplight red. This is stoplight yellow. This is stoplight green. And then I can call that. And that makes it easier. So we use include scripts to pull all of our, to run all of our scripts. Instead of running them in the actual app, we run them from a Git repository. And so that means that if somebody says, I don't like this color and I need to change it, I don't have to actually do anything to the app. I can go in and just change it in the Git repository, and that will call.
And then you spiral it out to all the apps at that point.
Yep.
Then too.
Yeah,
that's very nice.
So we put as much as we can in the script, particularly targets and coloration and all that stuff, because when people want changes on things,
inevitably,
I don't want to have to like copy the app and replace the app every time somebody wants a change to something that's underlying. Like if it's the interface, obviously we'll change that with a copy and replace. But like if it's just, I want this dimension to be called something different. Well, instead of doing if statements in the app, we'll load that as a whatever in the data or change the colors or however we're going to do that. So I like this. This
apps in general that you guys have then that you're touching on a regular basis.
So we have 170 apps deployed that get used with some regularity, but a lot of them are really like they do one or two things. They're very specific for a use case.
Yeah.
We have about 30 that get used all the time. I'm making revisions to several of those on a weekly basis. And it could be little stuff. It could be little bug fixes. It could be, I want this KPI to be 1 square bigger. I mean, it's all,
you get
it's all over the place. I probably am 70 of development time. I'm probably 70-30 working on new stuff versus maintaining existing stuff.
That's good. Yeah.
Sometimes it's higher. So we have our 3 kind of keystone apps. We'll go into phases where I feel like that's all I'm doing is working on those 3. And then we'll have, periodically we have one coming up. So our route guide performance management we're going to be revising that one. That's a big keystone app that we deployed, 3 years ago. We've made very few changes to it because those metrics don't change, right? Those are contractual metrics that we don't mess with.
Right.
But we're 3 years more mature now. I'm 3 years better of a developer. Our users have 3 years of expectations that they've built up. That app is not really, up to the standards that I would like it to be. And we recently, like in the last couple of weeks, have kind of built a use case from between a customer request and some other stuff to say, no, we're going to revise this. We're going to sit down and talk to our stakeholders and figure out like, okay, how do we make this app better? Some of it will just be, adopt best practices that we've developed over the last 3 years. Some of it will be throw out these sheets that nobody uses that we thought were cool, but they really aren't. They're not useful. Or fix the ones that could be useful but are cumbersome. And I think that's probably the biggest challenge is like I can build something that's useful for me, but I'm a power user, and so like what one of the biggest challenges that I face is I'll build something, I'll test it, and it's fine. I'll test it with our analytics team, and it's fine. But I forget every single time. They are power users that know how to use this platform, and they guide a lot of the development because they're going to be some of the main users. Right. Then I roll it out to a group of, moderate users, and they're like, what is this? I don't understand how this works. And they get confused immediately. And so trying to find these really sophisticated things that we build, find a way to make those more accessible to our users who just don't have the same level of experience. It's not about smart or not smart. It's about the amount of time that they spend in the platform, will determine, how much experience they have with it and how good they are at navigating a visual that's more complex than, just a bar chart. We do a lot of stuff with maps. So like we have a lot of visuals where we use a map and we'll have sliders that will set conditions on a map. That is harder to make user-friendly than you would think. To make it to where as they make adjustments, the map will change and will also tell them, this is what you're seeing.
Yeah.
And what we've learned is also to say, and this is what you're not seeing. So that's one that I never thought about for 2 years. And it was a big kind of glass shattering moment where I was sitting with a group of 3 or 4 users and I said, what is it about this that's useful, that's not useful? And somebody just completely out of left field said, well, I don't know what's not on this map. And I thought, oh, well, yeah, I guess it's important to know what's being excluded by all of these filters and selectors that you've put in. So like that's a big one that like I'm trying to get better at. Like if data falls out because of user selections, like is there a way?
What do you say?
Yeah, can we explain what's not there?
We sat somebody down. This was years ago. I think it was finance related, and gave them a purpose-built app for what their role really is. And we said, go at it. We just want to see what you can get out of it. And really quickly, they basically started clicking on things, got down to something really discrete, and ended up with like a single dot on a chart. And they go, I don't know what it's telling me. We just like hyper drilled into the lowest level of granularity. And so it's a really important part.
So one thing I do to
collections
counter
are out
that,
here telling us what's gone, but the chart could be a little bit different.
So I also counter that. I have discovered, and again, this is just through trial and error, unless it's a table, that's the exception to this rule. A single visual on a sheet always will end up unhelpful in the situation you just described. Mm-hmm. So visualization. So the big thing about visual data is it needs context. And when you have something dynamic like a Qlik app where a user can select a single thing, you have to at least give them some kind of visual context to know sort of what they're looking at. Even if it's another visual, so and this is the trick, it can be another visual that's telling them the exact same thing.
Yeah.
But just another way of providing them a little bit of context is all you need to, because I've seen that before as well.
Yeah.
Like I've made all these selections and I'm looking at this, I picked this one lane that we ship. I don't know what this page is telling me now. Well, yeah, because this page is intended to rank things and you have one. So of all the things you selected, that's the best one.
Or you got the best rank. Well, it aggregated it at that level. It's just the one thing that you're showing now. We think about that a lot too. If you've seen the previous episodes too, Jane is really big on brushing techniques. So oftentimes when you click on a chart, before you make the selection, it's actually brushing it. It's leaving those kind of just highlighted lightly or unhighlighted, I guess. But she'll even take it further that when I make the selection, they're still there. It's just only one is selected. Other charts have updated. And so we've started to think about that, maybe put it in our different apps, especially bar charts and stuff. You want to click on something and see where it ranks.
Yeah.
In association to other stuff. If you make the selection, you're just looking at that one thing. It's a really good point.
And it's tough too, because it depends on, it's how have you trained your users to do things, right? So like we have trained our user base that they can select, like it's not a guided analytics experience. Like we don't lock it down to the point where they go in, and as they make selections, they're pushing through the app and it doesn't really, there are apps that don't encourage you to start removing selections. Like you go into an app, as you make selections, you reach an answer and then you're done, right? It's like a finite journey. Well, we encourage our users to explore. So it's hard to even use things like, a text box that displays based on your previous selections. Here's the answers you were looking at versus what you're looking at now. Like that's hard to do as well, because that can really quickly create confusion. So again, it's a big balancing act trying to find something that will keep your users engaged and understanding what they're looking at. And so, we really we have to think about that a lot. And the way that I do user testing is very much what you described. Like I'll hand an app to a group of users for 2 weeks and say, okay, this is what you guys asked for. This is what I've built.
Yeah.
And I'll leave a text box on the page and be like, this is the feedback that I want from you. Like, tell me if this chart is in the right order. Tell me if these filters are all the filters you need. But then also that encourages them to tell me other things. And so I got great feedback on the last one I did from our procurement team. I gave it to our senior director of procurement and one of our truckload procurement managers. And they had it for 2 weeks, and they sent me a 4-page Word document of all these things. And it was great. It was great feedback because we encouraged, look at these specific things that I need to know, but then also tell me other things that you figured out along the way. And it really helped me understand which visuals were useful and which ones weren't, and which ones had enough context and which ones didn't, which ones needed different coloring. Man, people are funny about colors. Oh man. I don't know if you've experienced that too, or if that's an Odyssey thing, but people are funny about colors.
Yep. We argue, as you've probably seen, over whether a certain color is blue or purple. But I'll give you one. You just reminded me of that, getting feedback, having a little text box, and then they go and take it. This is normal dashboard. You guys might want to look at this, because a lot of the times when we add this in, it is about the business answering questions, making comments on things. But we put these little chat boxes on any visual that you want, mainly the master items. So they could come in here and actually say, instead of it's business related, just, hey, Joe, I'm going to tag Joe Ward. So I'm not getting the email. He'll get it. He'll have no idea what we're talking about. This blue is terrible. And you can collect that feedback directly on the charts themselves, or do it at a sheet level. So we had a couple customers that use this is called Teamwork, and they just plug it into apps to collect that feedback during the user testing side of things. And then they might leave it in there for the actual business related stuff, like, hey, we need to look at these things. This is super high. What's going on? Yeah, that's but you just reminded me of something. Maybe there's a slightly better, might make your job a little bit easier if all that information is.
Were you hiding in a user meeting at Odyssey 4 weeks ago? Because this blue is terrible. Somebody said that to me about 4 weeks ago about an app. I was using the Qlik, one of the Qlik standard blues, and that blue is terrible. Okay, I can make a different one. That's fine.
That's great.
So many comments on color. It is to the point that we built a color theme utility and I actually sent it to Jane after watching one of the episodes, because they talked about color on there as well.
Yeah.
People are funny that the colors don't match. So we went out and we went out and read up on the math of color matching. And so you can go in and put in the hex or RGB of a color, and it will say, okay, based on these different matching techniques, here are 3 or 4 or 5 other colors that match that exact color. And I tell you what, I use that color utility every time I'm building something brand new and somebody has provided me with at least one base color, because it's so funny about it. It's crazy.
I mean, I can see it now even on this page, and maybe you can too. Whatever I put for this pink, it jumps off my screen. I also have slight astigmatism, and I think that actually makes it worse in my eyes, my monitor. So we go in here, let's dial that one back type of thing.
Yeah.
I got this from Jane too. I just start putting a color palette picker in here so that I can quickly, map this stuff and then lock it in so it's in the other areas. But I have one more for you, and this is maybe more for your son. And that's, say this entire interface is, it's useful to us, but maybe there's a little too much going on. Let's see if we can build a Pokedex. I think you might actually like this one. So I put a little bit of a frame here of where we can put the visuals What do you think we would want on there if I hit edit here?
We definitely would want to see the card for sure. And then we want to be able to like select the name of the Pokemon. And the card might have to be like swipeable. I don't know if you can do swipeable or scrollable because, you know, like Charizard, there's going to be like 30.
Right. Let's, I'm just going to put this on the screen so I have some things and then we can copy and paste from it. So I have my little type selector. Let's grab the cards. Pokemon cards. You used the container here, which was kind of fun. And then I always forget how to get stuff out of it. So
you can right click on the tab of the container. Or maybe it's it's on the container itself.
I'm in edited properties now. I don't know how to get it out.
Right click on the like container body instead of the header. Yeah. And then go back. You go back.
Now I can copy it.
Well, you copied the whole container.
Oh.
If you do it again, if you go to the Vizlib tile 3.0, that's what you want to copy.
Man, I learn something new all the time. We have a different like version for the containers, and I end up
we use the containers
visualizations out here that I can pull from, and I forgot to make that one.
I use containers like crazy ever since they've made it an official part of the thing of the visualization bundle. Oh my gosh, we use them like mad.
Okay, so we got cards. We should be able to scroll and flip through them. So let's add that one real quick, just so it doesn't churn through everything. We're just going to pick maybe just dragons or something. There's fewer cards to pick from and have to paint.
That's true.
Let's add a new layer. We're going to choose a master visualization, and we'll just pick that one. Totally experimental. Oh, it won't let me pick that because it's a...
Is it a you can't do containers within containers?
Is it still a container, I wonder? No.
It's a tile.
Tiles. And that's tiles. I know that I can grab the image as well, though. So we can just pull that code out of here. Image high res. That's just what I needed there. We'll just do a single card display then.
Yeah.
For the moment. We'll change it to an image. We'll do only. And I think we'd have to pick a single card for it to pop in then. If I did that right. Where's my image? Should be good. There we go. So we can have display the card. Maybe too big, I don't know. What other things would we want on there? Because we can add text, we can add images, icons.
Well, I mean, if we can see the card, we don't really need it to tell us like the attacks or the damage or anything, because you can just see it. So,
right.
Let's
Let's add that filter in there. I know I had one. Filter bar.
Yeah, if we can filter, then you could pick like your you could pick which set you're looking at. So you could, pick your sword and shield or whatever.
Let's maybe put that up there. It's jumping around on me a little bit. That's okay. And we had there's bar charts in here because there is some good data on there. I guess if we're looking at, we wouldn't have anything to measure if it's just a single card, though.
That's true.
I just always go for bar charts and not not pies. But we do have the we just do text, which is something like the hit points you said.
Mm-hmm.
Is it HP? HP, yeah. Max. $220. We'll give it a different color so it stands out. And then another one might be their attack. Is it attack points or?
I think it's damage.
Damage. Yeah, you were talking about that. Depends on what's on the card. We have all of this on the card, but
yeah. So you might want to do like actual damage, but I would use like concat and a pipe because there can be multiple.
Oh, okay. Let's see what's in there first.
So it may not render properly if there's multiple options. I don't know what the behavior is. Because if there's 2 attacks on there, then
it should just pull the thing right out of there. Let's try just damage. Oh, it's lowercase d, isn't it?
Yeah, but like, well, does it make a difference though if there's two possible, like only returns 1 and only 1 thing? If there's 2 attacks, then there would be 2 damage values. So if you did like concat damage and then use a pipe as your delimiter.
Actual damage?
Yeah.
There we go. Backwards on my keyboard.
That should be it.
Oh, yeah, there we go. Format that as white real quick so we can see it. Oops. And
there must be a 0 damage. There's an ability or an attack on there that's not covered.
My internet's snappy. It's jumping around on me. So we got a little bit of the layout here.
Yeah.
Let's see what we get. So if we're not selected to anything, I don't think it'll know which image. Let's just the max value for one of the Pokemon.
All of the damages ever.
Yes. Oh, I didn't make that interactive. That's the one thing on them. The master items that you add, usually they're not interactive, so we have to just turn that on.
Gotcha.
And it will set the background color so we can actually read it. There we go. It's getting there. We'll find that. What was that really expensive one that we were looking at? Flareon? Or was something else?
Yeah, that Flareon, that's a card. I don't know if that's the right one, but there is Flareon. And then you could pick like so that you've got multiple there. So why don't you grab from the set? Why don't you pick a set and then you should only have one. It literally doesn't matter. There you go.
And then there's 2 in this jungle set.
Oh.
So you gotta find the right evolve, the one from Eevee. No. There's many. I'm trying to do it without clicking on the cards. Stage 1. They both have the same minimum energy.
One of them must be like a hollow or something. Again, my son is now explaining the difference. So in the future, this afternoon, he's explaining
why. Exactly why.
Yeah.
Your Pokedex can find this. So yeah, I thought about this too. If we had a bit more time, maybe put some arrows or even like a random button, like a little, press this thing, or maybe we press this is the thing I think lights up when you find the Pokemon. It tells you it's close by. That's all I remember. That could be way off. But we had a question come in. I forgot to get back to that. They were asking, it's Poke API.
Yeah.
You stumbled upon this. What do you think about, we'll keep playing around with this. I'll clean this up. Sharing this app out there so people could take it apart?
Oh, I think it's great. Yeah. I mean, I have no problem with that. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because you got some code in there. I don't think you put like your API name or anything. You nicely indicated, hey, go here and go add the API. And then people can pull down the data. But we'll just keep it with the current data in there. And then have people kind of have some fun with it. I took one other experiment I was playing with yesterday, and I'm like, I have to actually get back to work. Building little cards, and I wanted to put the number of them, their actual number of the original Pokemon. So I found another image set, and then I figured we could build our own little cards of what is interesting to you. Put your wish list icon, that type of thing on there as well.
Yeah, that is cool.
So I'm happy to send this over to you as well. We can keep playing around with it.
Yeah.
People want the QVF. That's awesome. And we'll get this loaded up there so people can take it apart.
Yeah.
But yeah, thanks a lot, Joe, for sending this over, and fascinating
fun.
stories.
Absolutely.
We're going to have to do another Twitch session at some point where your son can be live there and asking questions and informing us of what we're doing wrong.
Yeah. Oh man, we'd have to book extra time because he'll tell us all the things.
That's awesome.
So.
All right. Well, cheers. I got some coffee in here also. I got my Qlik water bottle that I actually need to drink more water of. So thanks for coming on Appy Hour. I really appreciate it. And thanks for all the tips. That was really, really useful for me too.
This was a lot of fun. I appreciate the opportunity.
All right, man. Take care. We'll talk soon. Be safe out there.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.